Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever paused mid-thought and asked yourself, what if? What if I had done things differently? What if I had chosen another path, spoken another word, or walked away instead of staying? These what ifs are the seeds of regret, a garden where we often find ourselves lost. But tonight, let me walk you out of that garden and into a clearing where the sun shines on a life lived without regret. Regret is the weight of time misunderstood. Liberation comes from embracing what was, what is, and what will be. At its core, regret is not merely about the choices we've made, but about the relationship we have with time itself. It is the haunting notion that we could have shaped the past differently, rewritten the script of our lives to avoid pain, loss, or failure. Noticing the script of our lives is about the relationship, failure. We've written the script of our lives to avoid pain, loss, or failure. But this perception of regret is flawed because it assumes that life is linear, that time is a rigid sequence of cause and effect, and that perfection could somehow be achieved if we had acted differently. Regret weighs us down because it is rooted in a misunderstanding. It is a refusal to see the beauty in imperfection and a denial of the inevitable truth that every moment, whether joyous or painful, contributes to the mosaic of our lives. Regret whispers lies to us, telling us that the past defines us in unchangeable ways, but the past is not a sentence. It is a story, and stories evolve as we choose to interpret them differently. Consider the notion of time itself. We often think of it as something that flows in one direction, moving relentlessly forward, leaving behind the debris of mistakes, missed opportunities, and unspoken words. But time is far more complex than this simplistic view. The past is not static. It lives within us, shaped by the meanings we assign to it. Regret only thrives when we cling to the belief that the past should have been different, that our former selves should have known what we know now. But how could they? How could the person who stumbled blindly through a decision know the wisdom that would only come later? To hold your past self to the standards of your present self is to ignore the journey of growth that defines a human life. Liberation from regret begins with embracing what was. This means acknowledging that every choice, whether it led to triumph or hardship, was made with the best understanding and resources available at the time. No one makes decisions in the future. They are always made in the immediacy of the present moment, with all its complexities and uncertainties. To accept what was is not to glorify mistakes or pretend that pain did not occur. Instead, it is to honor the reality of those moments, to see them as necessary steps on the path that brought you to where you are today. The present, too, demands our attention. Regret often blinds us to the richness of now. When we dwell on what could have been, we miss the unfolding of what is. Life is happening in this very moment, not in the shadows of the past or the illusions of an imagined future. To embrace the present is to recognize its completeness, even if it is imperfect. It is to see that every breath, every heartbeat is an opportunity to begin again, to create anew and to live fully. And then there is the future, a canvas yet to be painted. Regret teaches us to fear the future, to anticipate failure, to doubt our ability to change, but this fear is misplaced. The future is not shaped by what we regret, but by how we choose to move forward. If the past has been a teacher, then the future is its classroom, a place where lessons are applied, not in pursuit of perfection, but in the pursuit of understanding, growth, and meaning. The weight of regret diminishes when we shift our focus from what cannot be undone to what can still be created. The truth is, liberation from regret requires an act of profound courage. The courage to embrace what was, what is, and what will be without judgment or resistance. This is not an easy path. It asks us to confront our vulnerabilities, to sit with discomfort, and to let go of the illusion that life could ever be controlled or perfected. But in doing so, we discover freedom. The freedom to see the past not as a chain but as a foundation, the present not as a fleeting moment but as an eternal now, and the future not as a source of anxiety but as a realm of infinite possibility. Every life is a journey marked by mistakes, triumphs, losses, and gains. Regret is but a signpost along the way, urging us to pause and reflect. But it is not a destination. To dwell in regret is to halt the journey, to stop moving forward, to miss the unfolding beauty of life itself. Liberation comes when we understand that regret is not a failure of the past, but a misunderstanding of time. It is a refusal to see that every moment, no matter how painful, has its purpose. What was cannot be changed, but it can be reframed. What is cannot be controlled, but it can be lived. What will be cannot be predicted, but it can be shaped. This is the essence of liberation, to hold the past with compassion, to meet the present with gratitude, and to greet the future with hope. In this way, the weight of regret is transformed into the wings of understanding, carrying us forward into a life of freedom and fulfillment. Every choice, even the mistaken ones, is a brushstroke on the canvas of your unique masterpiece. Life, when viewed from a distance, is much like a grand painting, an intricate, evolving work of art shaped by countless decisions, experiences, and emotions. Each brushstroke, whether deliberate or accidental, contributes to the depth, texture, and beauty of the whole, even the strokes you regret. The ones made in haste or ignorance are not flaws but essential elements of the masterpiece you are creating. When you step back and look at a painting, do you focus on a single brush stroke, questioning its placement, its color, or its purpose? Or do you allow your eyes to take in the full picture, appreciating how each stroke comes together to form something greater than the sum of its parts? The same is true of your life. A single choice, no matter how ill-considered it may seem in isolation, does not define you. It is merely one part of a much larger narrative, a narrative that is uniquely yours. Mistakes, failures, and missteps are often viewed as blemishes, as though they mar the purity of an otherwise perfect life. But perfection is an illusion. A masterpiece does not arise from the absence of flaws, but from the artist's ability to work with them, to integrate them into the whole in a way that adds depth and character. The most compelling works of art are those that evoke emotion, that tell a story rich with complexity and nuance. Similarly, your life gains meaning not from avoiding mistakes, but from embracing them, learning from them, and allowing them to shape your growth. Think of the great artists of history. Their masterpieces are not pristine or devoid of struggle. They are filled with evidence of experimentation, revision, and even failure. Da Vinci's Mona Lisa wasn't created in a single perfect stroke. Van Gogh's Starry Night is a swirl of chaos and beauty, each brushstroke carrying the weight of his struggles and emotions. In the same way, your life is a reflection of every moment you've lived, the joyful ones, the painful ones, and even the ones you wish you could erase. Regret often arises from the belief that a single choice could ruin the entire canvas of your life. But this is a misunderstanding of how a masterpiece is created. A dark brushstroke in the wrong place can initially feel like a mistake, but with time and perspective it can be transformed into shadow and depth, providing contrast that makes the lighter strokes shine even brighter. What feels like a misstep today may become, in hindsight, the very detail that gives your life its richness and meaning. Choices, even mistaken ones, are acts of creation. They are evidence of your agency, your willingness to engage with the world, and your courage to make decisions, even in the face of uncertainty. To make no choices at all would be to leave the canvas blank, to forfeit the opportunity to create something meaningful. Mistakes, then, are not failures, but marks of your humanity, signs that you are participating fully in the adventure of life. When you allow yourself to view life as a masterpiece in progress, you begin to see the value of every choice. That argument you had with a loved one, it may have deepened your understanding of each other, adding layers of vulnerability and strength to your relationship. That career path you pursued only to realize it wasn't right for you, it may have taught you more about yourself, helping you discover what truly matters. Even the choices that brought pain or heartbreak are not wasted. They are brush strokes that add texture and emotion to the canvas. It's easy to dwell on the what-ifs and the should-haves, but doing so keeps you trapped in a single corner of the canvas, staring at one stroke without appreciating the full picture. The beauty of a masterpiece lies not in its perfection, but in its ability to evoke a sense of awe and wonder. Your life is no different. The choices you make, including the mistaken ones, are not the end of the story. They are part of an ongoing process of creation, one that is as dynamic and evolving as you are. As you continue to paint the canvas of your life, remember that no stroke is final. Each one builds upon the others, creating layers of meaning and complexity. The so-called mistakes are often the most interesting parts, the places where the unexpected happens and the ordinary transforms into the extraordinary. What matters most is not whether every choice is right, but whether you continue to engage with the process, to paint with intention and courage. Life is not about achieving a perfect outcome, but about embracing the journey of creation. Each choice, each moment, is an opportunity to add to the masterpiece. And when the day comes for you to step back and view the full canvas of your life, you may find that it is not the perfection of the strokes that moves you, but their honesty, their humanity, and their raw beauty. Every brushstroke, even the mistaken ones, will have contributed to a masterpiece that is uniquely, authentically yours. Life's most profound lessons are hidden in its most uncomfortable moments. At first glance, discomfort feels like an unwelcome intruder, a force that disrupts our plans and challenges our sense of control. Yet, it is precisely in these moments of unease that life offers its greatest teachings, shaping us in ways that comfort never could. Growth and understanding are rarely born from convenience. They emerge from the friction of adversity, from the challenges that push us to confront the unknown within and around us. When we are comfortable, we tend to settle into patterns that feel safe and familiar. Life flows predictably, and while this stability is valuable, it often lacks the spark that ignites true transformation. Discomfort, on the other hand, shakes us out of our complacency. It forces us to confront truths we might otherwise avoid, compelling us to question, to adapt, and to grow. This is not to say that comfort is inherently bad or undesirable, but rather that it lacks the intensity to provoke deep introspection and meaningful change. Consider the times in your life when you've learned the most about yourself. Were these lessons born from moments of ease, or did they arise in the wake of challenges, failures, and heartbreaks? Often it is the latter. Uncomfortable moments strip away pretense and illusion, leaving us face to face with our vulnerabilities and strengths. In these moments, we discover what we are truly capable of, not by clinging to the familiar, but by embracing the uncertainty and chaos that discomfort brings. Take, for example, the experience of failure. Failure is inherently uncomfortable. It stings our pride and shakes our confidence. Yet within its sting lies a wealth of wisdom. Failure teaches resilience, showing us that setbacks are not the end, but an opportunity to begin anew with greater clarity and purpose. It forces us to reevaluate our choices, to identify what went wrong, and to approach the same challenges with a fresh perspective. Its success, while rewarding, often lacks the depth of insight that failure provides. It is through failure that we learn patience, humility, and the value of perseverance. Moments of emotional discomfort, grief, heartbreak, or disappointment have a way of revealing truths we might otherwise overlook. These experiences remind us of the impermanence of life, of the fragile beauty of relationships, and of the importance of cherishing what truly matters. Grief, though painful, teaches us to love more deeply, to hold others closer, and to appreciate the fleeting nature of time. Heartbreak, though devastating, often leads to a greater understanding of ourselves, our needs, and our capacity for love and forgiveness. Discomfort is also a catalyst for growth because it pushes us to step outside our comfort zones. When we face unfamiliar situations, we are forced to adapt, to think differently, and to confront fears that have held us back. The first step into the unknown is often the hardest, but it is also the most transformative. It is in these moments of uncertainty that we discover strengths we didn't know we had, talents we didn't realize we possessed, and perspectives we never considered. Discomfort, in this sense, is not an obstacle but an invitation, a call to expand beyond the limitations we've set for ourselves. There is also a profound connection between discomfort and authenticity. In moments of ease, it's tempting to maintain appearances, to conform to expectations, and to avoid difficult conversations. Discomfort, however, demands honesty. It strips away the superficial, leaving only what is real and true. When we face discomfort, we are forced to confront ourselves as we truly are, not as we wish to be seen. Instead of keeping the line short, the barber is encouraged to induce in his client, and in the Mayan sense, supernaturally. This confrontation can be unsettling, but it is also liberating. It allows us to shed the masks we wear and to embrace our genuine selves. Even in the physical realm, discomfort holds lessons. Think of the effort required to build strength or stamina. Muscles grow through resistance, through the discomfort of effort and strain. The same principle applies to the mind and spirit. Growth requires effort, and effort often brings discomfort. But the rewards, strength, resilience, and a deeper understanding of oneself are worth the struggle. Discomfort is not something to be feared or avoided. It is something to be embraced. It is a sign that we are alive, engaged, and growing. The moments that test us, that stretch us to our limits, are the very moments that define us. They are the crucibles in which character is forged, where wisdom is cultivated, and where true transformation occurs. Life's most profound lessons are not found in its easiest moments, but in its most challenging ones. These are the moments that demand our attention, our courage, and our willingness to evolve. They are the moments that remind us of our humanity, of our interconnectedness, and of the infinite potential within us to grow and thrive. So, when discomfort comes, welcome it not as an enemy, but as a teacher, knowing that within its challenges lie the seeds of your greatest growth. To regret is to live in resistance to the present. Acceptance is the only doorway to peace. Regret roots us in a state of tension, tethering our minds to events we cannot change and outcomes we cannot alter. It pulls us backward, away from the moment unfolding before us, and traps us in a cycle of longing for a past that no longer exists. The weight of regret can be immense, yet its presence serves as a reminder of the powerful choice we all have to release the past and embrace the now. Only through acceptance can we step into the present with clarity and find the peace that regret obscures. Regret often arises from our longing for things to have been different, a decision made differently, words left unsaid, or actions we wish we could undo. It is natural to feel this way. Humans are reflective beings, constantly analyzing and reanalyzing their experiences. However, this reflective nature can become a double-edged sword. When regret consumes us, it becomes a form of resistance, a refusal to accept that what has happened, happened. It's as if we are waging a silent battle against reality, hoping to rewrite a history that is already inked onto the pages of time. But in resisting what is unchangeable, we expend energy that could instead be directed toward healing, growing, and embracing the present. Acceptance, on the other hand, is a profound act of courage. It is not passive resignation or indifference, but an active acknowledgement of reality as it is. To accept is to stop fighting the tides of time and to recognize that while we cannot change the past, we can transform our relationship with it. Acceptance allows us to see regret for what it truly is, a reflection of our capacity to care deeply, to desire improvement, and to wish for connection. In accepting our regrets, we begin to understand that they do not define us. They are simply part of our human experience. Living in regret keeps us tethered to moments that no longer exist. It blinds us to the opportunities and beauty of the present moment, robbing us of the chance to create a different future. Imagine carrying a heavy bag filled with stones everywhere you go. Each stone represents a regret, and though you may wish to discard them, you cling to them out of habit or fear. The burden slows you down, drains your energy, and prevents you from fully experiencing life. Acceptance is the act of setting down the bag, recognizing that carrying it no longer serves you. It is a release, a letting go, that creates space for something new to emerge. Regret thrives on what-ifs and if-onlys, drawing us into a world of hypothetical scenarios that do not exist. Acceptance, however, grounds us in reality. It shifts our focus from what could have been to what is. This shift is transformative. When we accept the past, we no longer waste energy trying to change it. Instead, we can direct that energy toward understanding, learning, and growing from our experiences. The lessons we extract from regret become the foundation for wisdom, resilience, and self-compassion. The journey from regret to acceptance is not always easy. It requires patience and self-compassion. It may involve sitting with uncomfortable feelings, acknowledging mistakes, and confronting pain. But it also offers liberation. Acceptance does not mean condoning past mistakes or pretending they didn't happen. It means acknowledging them, forgiving yourself or others, and choosing not to let those mistakes dictate your present or future. It is an act of self-love, a recognition that you are more than the sum of your past actions. Regret can serve as a teacher if we allow it to. It can illuminate our values, show us areas for growth, and deepen our understanding of ourselves. But it is through acceptance that these lessons can truly take root. Without acceptance, regret becomes a stagnant pool, a place where we linger without progress. With acceptance, regret becomes a river, flowing forward and carrying us toward greater self-awareness and peace. Acceptance also opens the doorway to gratitude. When we let go of regret, we begin to notice the gifts that the present moment offers. We become attuned to the people, opportunities, and experiences that surround us, many of which we might have overlooked while dwelling on the past. Gratitude arises naturally when we release regret, for we realize that even the most painful moments have shaped us and contributed to our growth, and we quickly create an idea about it. To regret is to resist the flow of life, to cling to a narrative that no longer serves us. Acceptance, however, is an act of liberation. It is the choice to stop wrestling with what cannot be changed and to embrace the present with open arms. In doing so, we free ourselves from the shackles of the past and create space for peace, joy, and meaning in our lives. I say acceptance is not an end, it is a beginning, a doorway through which we step into the fullness of life, unburdened by the weight of what was, and fully alive to what is. The path to fulfillment is not in avoiding mistakes, but in transforming them into wisdom. Mistakes are an inevitable part of the human experience, woven into the fabric of growth and discovery. They are not failures in the truest sense, but opportunities cloaked in the guise of setbacks. To live in constant fear of mistakes is to deny ourselves the richness of learning, the depth of understanding, and the freedom to fully embrace life. Fulfillment does not come from perfection, but from the courage to navigate imperfection and turn it into something meaningful. Mistakes have an inherent power to teach us lessons that success often cannot. When we stumble, we are forced to pause, reflect, and recalibrate. These moments of reflection are where growth begins. A mistake highlights gaps in our knowledge or judgment, revealing areas where we can improve. It is not the mistake itself that defines us, but how we respond to it. Those who fear mistakes often remain stagnant, avoiding risks and opportunities for fear of failure. In contrast, those who embrace mistakes as part of their journey, learn to adapt, grow, and thrive. Consider the nature of wisdom itself. Wisdom is not something we are born with. It is cultivated over time through experience. Mistakes are the raw material from which wisdom is forged. They teach us patience, humility, and resilience. They show us the value of persistence and the importance of self-awareness. Each mistake we make becomes a chapter in the story of our lives, contributing to a greater understanding of ourselves and the world around us. To transform mistakes into wisdom is to alchemize pain into insight and regret into growth. Often we judge ourselves harshly for our mistakes, seeing them as signs of inadequacy or failure. Yet, this mindset ignores the profound truth that mistakes are a natural part of learning. A child learning to walk stumbles many times before finding their balance. Each fall is a necessary step toward mastery. In the same way, every mistake we make as adults is part of our journey toward becoming more capable, knowledgeable, and compassionate. To embrace this truth is to release the burden of self-judgment and view our mistakes through the lens of possibility. The fear of making mistakes can be paralyzing. It creates a mental cage, restricting our actions and limiting our potentials. This fear often stems from societal expectations of perfection or the pressure to meet certain standards. But perfection is an illusion, and the pursuit of it often leads to frustration and dissatisfaction. True fulfillment lies not in avoiding mistakes, but in embracing the messiness of life. It is about understanding that each misstep carries within it the seeds of growth, that each failure is a stepping stone to greater understanding. Mistakes also have the unique ability to deepen our empathy and connection with others. When we recognize our own fallibility, we become more compassionate toward the imperfections of others. We see that everyone is navigating their own challenges and learning from their own mistakes. This shared humanity fosters connection and understanding, reminding us that we are not alone in our struggles. So one thing that we tend to do when we have knowledge of this is to undermine those of the imperfections of others. In this way, mistakes can bring us closer to others, enriching our relationships and enhancing our sense of belonging. Transforming mistakes into wisdom requires a shift in perspective. It means viewing mistakes not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth. It involves asking ourselves, What can I learn from this? How can this experience make me better? This mindset fosters resilience, allowing us to bounce back from setbacks with renewed determination and purpose. It also encourages a sense of curiosity, turning challenges into adventures and failures into experiments. The process of transforming mistakes into wisdom also requires vulnerability. It means acknowledging our imperfections and owning up to our errors. This vulnerability can be uncomfortable, but it is also liberating. When we stop hiding from our mistakes and start learning from them, we free ourselves from the weight of shame and guilt. We begin to see ourselves not as flawed individuals, but as evolving beings, constantly learning and growing. Mistakes, when embraced, can even become sources of inspiration. Many of history's greatest achievements have arisen from mistakes or failures. Consider the countless inventions, discoveries, and breakthroughs that were born from trial and error. The willingness to take risks, make mistakes, and learn from them is at the heart of innovation and creativity. It is this same spirit that can lead us to fulfillment in our own lives, inspiring us to push beyond our comfort zones and explore new possibilities. The path to fulfillment is not a straight road, but a winding journey filled with detours and challenges. Each mistake we make is a sign that we are moving forward, that we are engaged in the process of living and learning. To avoid mistakes is to avoid life itself, to miss out on the richness of experience and the depth of understanding that comes from facing challenges head on. Fulfillment is found not in perfection, but in transformation, in taking the raw, unpolished moments of life and turning them into something meaningful. It is about recognizing that mistakes are not the end of the story, but the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with wisdom, growth, and possibility. By embracing our mistakes and learning from them, we unlock the door to a life of purpose, resilience, and profound self-awareness. The only life worth living is one where every moment is owned without shame or apology. To live this way is to fully embrace the reality of who we are unapologetically and authentically. It means standing firm in the choices we make, the paths we take, and the person we are becoming, without the burden of seeking constant approval or fearing judgment. This is not a call to recklessness or indifference, but an invitation to radical self-acceptance, where every moment, good or bad, is met with accountability, grace, and courage. Owning every moment of our lives requires us to confront the parts of ourselves we often try to hide. Shame thrives in secrecy and grows when we deny or suppress our imperfections. But to live without shame is to shine a light on those hidden corners of our being and accept them as part of our story. It is understanding that our flaws do not diminish our worth, but rather make us human. Owning who we are means rejecting the narrative that we must be perfect to be worthy of love, respect, or happiness. It means choosing to stand in our truth, even when it is uncomfortable. Apology has its place in life, particularly when we have caused harm or acted without integrity. But the apology spoken of here is the one we offer unnecessarily, the one born of self-doubt, where we shrink ourselves to fit into spaces that were never meant to contain us. To live without this kind of apology is to refuse to dilute our essence to meet the expectations of others. It is to boldly occupy our space in the world, acknowledging that we are enough as we are. This is not arrogance, but confidence, rooted in self-awareness and self-respect. Living a life of ownership does not mean that we will never stumble or make mistakes. It is, instead, a recognition that mistakes are an inevitable part of the human journey. When we own our moments, we take responsibility for our actions without succumbing to the weight of guilt or shame. We learn to view mistakes as opportunities for growth rather than as evidence of failure. This perspective allows us to move forward with grace, using each experience as a stepping stone toward greater understanding and self-improvement. The fear of judgment often prevents us from living authentically. We worry about what others might think or say, and so we tailor our actions to fit into a mold that feels safer, more acceptable. But this compromises the integrity of our lives. A life worth living is not one spent trying to meet the expectations of others. It is one where we align our actions with our own values and truths. Therefore, when we live authentically, we give ourselves permission to be fully present in our lives, unburdened by the need for external validation. Owning every moment also means embracing the present. So often live in the shadow of the past or in anticipation of the future, missing the richness of what is happening right now. To live without shame or apology is to fully inhabit the present, to be engaged with life as it unfolds. When we live this way, we stop wasting energy on regret or worry and instead direct it toward creating a life that reflects our true desires and aspirations. There is a profound freedom in owning every moment. When we stop apologizing for our existence, we open ourselves to experiences, opportunities, and relationships that align with our true selves. This freedom allows us to pursue our passions without fear, to speak our truths without hesitation, and to build lives that are rich with meaning and purpose. It is a freedom that comes from knowing that we are not defined by others' opinions or by the labels society places on us. Living without shame or apology does not mean ignoring the impact we have on others. On the contrary, it requires a deep sense of accountability. It means owning not only our successes, but also our missteps, our words and our actions. It means being willing to apologize when necessary, to make amends and to grow from the experience. True ownership is not about perfection, but about integrity. The willingness to stand by our values and take responsibility for our lives. Or, at its core, this way of living is about self-liberation. It is about breaking free from the chains of self-doubt, fear, and the need for external approval. It is about recognizing that our worth is inherent, that we are deserving of joy, love, and fulfillment, simply because we exist. When we live without shame or apology, we reclaim the power to define our own lives. We become the authors of our own stories, writing each chapter with intention and courage. Thank you for allowing me to share this journey of self-liberation and authenticity. May you own every moment of your life and create a legacy that reflects your true essence. Thank you.